Guys, we're ad-libbing this one. We just thought we'd do a face-to-face, talk to the world, you know, from our upper room here in Marino, just outside of Castel Gandolfo. There's a lot that needs to be addressed. We principally would like to talk to the lead wankers out there. At the top of their list is Dr. Bob Thiel, Thiel, of the, what is it, Continuing Church of God, the cult that was started by, what's his name, Herbert Armstrong?
Yeah.
Dr. Thiel, of course, has rejected the Christ, which makes him Antichrist, just like Francis has rejected the Christ.
Actually, what I was trying to point out to Bob was that he and the talking mule Francis, now Francis is a Jesuit, has vowed to kill all Protestants and anybody who is not of their particular idea of Satan. And Bob Thiel is in the same category because he's also rejected me as Francis.
So
now, I was trying to talk, when I spoke to, wrote it for Dr. Thiel, which I think it should be reduced because he's certainly not a doctor, an idiot. What he was basically saying was that he's talking about Revelation 17, and he clicked right past 17:11 because that's the one which is all this hinges on, that the only remaining man alive that could possibly be the contender for Petrus Romanus is in 17:11, and that's of course is Benedict, which we've been talking to. And I'm amazed by the stupidity of these people, that how many contenders are there on the earth that are walking around saying that they're talking to the former Pope, and the former Pope has written an apostolic letter saying that this Leonard Golightly Marshall character is indeed Jesus Christ reincarnated. Now, the prophecies indicate that I will be rejected. The Lord will be rejected. And of course Jesus was rejected, and I'm rejected, and everyone that knows me doesn't like me either, so I'm rejected by them too. And I'm talking about family here. The ones who have seen miracles and all sorts of things, and I'm quite astounded by it all. However, prophecy holds, and Bob Thiel, I thought he was reasonably intelligent. However, he's not. And of course, when I wrote the letter to him, I said, you will, of course, not go along with this either. And I went through every point and tried to point out that total rejection is what it's all about. And then he sends back a
message
by John. That's he rejects me.
Well, he said, you have wasted my time. to which John replied, well, I haven't wasted mine. And my little add-on was, you have wasted your life.
Yes.
And Yah's little add-on to that was, he'll be marked as one of the dogs forever and ever and ever, barking on the outside of the holy city. Anyway, we wanted to point out something blatantly obvious with what's recorded in the Revelation 2, is that the Antichrist is the one that, the beast, which is headed up by the Antichrist, so we've got the beast system, and its head right now is Francis, who is the biblical Antichrist, because he has rejected the Christ has come in the flesh. Not any of the others who have sat on the throne throughout history. They are not
there's
the
some evil
Antichrist.
buggers out there, don't worry about that. But see, the point being is when you get the Pope, that you cannot retire when you're a Pope. You die, and then you stop being a Pope. So here, Emeritus Pope Benedict, he decides that he's going to retire because of his arthritis, and he broke his wrists, and he was disgusted with the filth in the church. He couldn't do nothing about it. He told us that this is why he retired, because he couldn't rid the church of the filth, and maybe someone else could. Well, as it turns out, he didn't really understand Revelation 17:11, which states that there has got to be one person alive out of the seven, which means the Vatican is the seven popes, since it was put together on February the 11th, 1929. And exactly 84 years later, Benedict retires. Well, he didn't know any of that. He was a very, very nice man, but people in that position get tied up with so much things they've got to do. They don't really have time for looking into prophecy and scriptures and so forth, and rely on their staff to do that for them, because they didn't know either. So next thing, I come along, and he's very anxious to talk to us. And I was just looking at some of the emails. We were going to do that this morning, read the emails, but we'll do that at a later time. But he hadn't talked to me, but he had seen my photograph. And he was convinced that the photograph's exactly the same as the Shroud of Turin, because he's going on bone destruction and things like that. But he fell asleep at 2 a.m. and Giuseppe, his main man, that was his right-hand man, with him in the papal, what is it?
Household. Yeah, papal household.
He said that the Pope had woken up a half hour ago, and he looked very tired. And he asked him how he was, and he said, "I'll be all right as soon as I talk to Mr. and Mrs. Marshall."
I'll be fine as long as I talk to Mr. and Mrs. Marshall today.
Because that was the communications we were starting by sending live emails. It was a very good way of doing it, really. We could have talked face to face or on the telephone, but you don't record it. And this way, he had decided that what he wanted to do was to write questions, take his time to write the questions, maybe over several hours. And then when he got to the stage of sending them, he'd flick them over to me, and I'd immediately respond. So there was a few minutes in between, depending on the length of the response required. So what we have then is the first Pope in history to recognise Christ. Now, as he was still a Pope and cannot retire, the conclave was totally illegal. And of course he told Francis, who after he was elected, and he is one of the biggest monsters of all time, he rejected me. So therefore, as Benedict had accepted me as the Pope, had accepted me as being Christ, and considering that if it was done before the 11th of February, that means the entire church would have to go along with it. So what he says as King and Pope would go, and that's written in stone. However, as they all reject the idea that he is now no longer the Pope because he retired, not realising you can't retire. Popes don't retire. They just get old and die, and then another one takes the place. That's the divine way, if you like, because death is determined by the Almighty, as the Church indicates. So, before the conclave, he is already talking and accepting Christ, and he's preparing his apostolic letter. He might have written it by then. And he talks to the person who comes out of the conclave. And my advice, I didn't give to the Pope directly. I think I might have mentioned it to Giuseppe, Father Giuseppe. But in any case, the idea was that whoever walks out of the Pope is going to be the Antichrist. So you're better off just spending 25 cents on a bullet and shoot him on the spot, and you save the world a whole lot of problem. Because I'm going to get blamed for as God, I'll get blamed for his death anyhow. And I'm looking forward to that. So, yes, he comes out and he denies Christ. Now, the Vicar of Christ, the wording in Latin, adds up to 666. So people like Bob Thiel and all these people, they all nominate every Pope as being 666. Not so. The only Pope that can be 666 is a false Pope, number one. And number two, he has to be the man who denies Christ to the real Pope, which is still Benedict. And that's the end of it. So it's that simple. So we are now looking at we're sitting in Rome, we're waiting for the next stage of what's going to unfold. And of course, when the Pope gets back on the podium, Francis will either be arrested or dead, one or the other. And of course Benedict will be back in charge, because he is the only Pope that's alive out of the seven that was ruler of King and Pope of the Vatican, because the city-state. And at the end of the day, he's the only one that's left alive, and he's the one that is Petrus Romanus and becomes Pope under Christ. And you'll have a real church. So a lot of people hate the Catholic Church because of all the dreadful things they've done. Well, I do too, don't worry about that. The point being, however, that the Catholic Church has 1.2 billion people. It is a government. It's the largest single government in the world. It's bigger than China, right? And I'm saying to the Pope, well, we'll just simply put in my protocols for curing all the diseases, and don't worry about the Protestants down the street. or the Muslims or whatever, they can come free of charge, and they can participate in the benevolence of the churches throughout the world, and they'll have no prejudice against them. They'll open their doors to everybody. You can come in. And that means homosexuals as well. I'm not too keen on homosexuals, by the way, but that's going to have to stop. There'll be no homosexual priests, that's for sure. They're gone. And of course, all the child molesters are going to be arrested, and in all likelihood, that the angels of death will just take them out. So if anyone survives it, well, we've cleansed the temple, so to speak, because this is not going to be in my world. And I am the creator, whether you like it or not. I don't give a damn one way or the other. It's not an election. And that's it. That's how it's going to be. It's going to run the world. It'll be run my way, the Jesus way, and the Yahweh way. And it's all going to be based on righteousness. So I'm not absolutely 100% on everything. I'll listen to any argument that may come forward and give it some thought. But generally speaking, there'll be no homosexuals, there'll be no child molesters, absolutely. There'll be no liars. There's nothing that offends me, and that's the end of it.
Oh, really very simple, isn't it?
I think it's very simple.
It's only man who complicates things. And there is one thing that Revelation does say, is that Jesus Christ is the spirit of prophecy. Well, Jesus Christ is here. So everybody's squabbling, writing their books and arguing over this, debating, waiting for raptures, all kinds of things. You've got it all wrong. You haven't a clue. Get over yourselves. Lay it all down. And there are some things that are so blatantly obvious. If the beast is fighting against the lamb and those that are called and chosen to be with him, like myself and the few that are fighting this battle on behalf of everybody out there, then he has to be on the earth where the beast is. It's not the spirit floating around amongst the Protestant churches or those little conclaves.
Well, the last place has been a bloody Protestant church.
But there's groups all over the place who think that they are the chosen of God and that they are hearing from God. It's none of you. It is absolutely none of you. Unless you're communicating with the Christ and are following him. Every eye can follow him on the YouTube. That's how it's done. 144,000 follow him wherever he goes. It's through the internet, cyberspace. That's how it's done today. So you're all wrong. Bob Thiel and all of your cultish groups out there, every single one of them. I'm looking forward, Benny Hinn, the greatest devil of all.
This is a Jew. Finish. End of story.
He did have a dream. I thought he did have a dream that he told his people that Jesus is going to walk up on the podium at one of his gatherings where he's fleecing the sheep.
We'll do that. We'll go to Vancouver and walk up the stage. I'll knock him out.
Knock him out. I'm taking over, son. Oh.
I'd like to say that all throughout my life I've been protecting youngsters and the innocent. In my school days, there was a lot of activity there which would have turned youngsters into homosexuals because bullies would get them and force them to do abominable acts. And these are straight kids. They grow up and marry wives and have kids. But they're just cruel bastards that would belittle and cause youngsters to have their first sexual experience with these bullies at 2 or 3 years older. And I went around the schools and I'd say to all the youngsters, you have a problem, come and tell me and I'll go punch their lights out, which I did. So I've had more fights than Muhammad Ali and George Foreman put together. And I'm as big as George Foreman, by the way, and 3 times as strong. So I'm not a man that you want to fool with on the street. So I've always stood up, and the same as Jesus when I walked the earth then, there was no turning the other cheek. The only other cheek you could turn is when I smacked it and knocked them out. So I was hated by the Jews because I couldn't call them out then. I'm calling them out now. And the Jews today spread worldwide because Zionism and because you've got the people that are in the Vatican. They're all Jews of some sort. They're all deniers of Christ, so what the hell difference? So I joined the club. So they're just about ready to be taken out. Now, we've got all the signs in space, and I've said if you could trace out my name and my statements I've made over the years, ever since I got on the internet, keep looking up. Right? Now you look up now, what do you got? You got a dwarf with 7 planets coming across, and August is supposed to be the big day, and we just got a report this morning from our people in our home in Australia that they have sighted the dwarf. And there's a fellow down there, an Australian fellow, Neddy. He has been very, very diligent and keeping an eye out for this sort of thing, and he's taken photographs of it with his telescopic lens and so forth.
Noting all the military activity above his house and what are transporters and things all happening around Brisbane and helicopters. So they're all good. Now,
I should say in 2002 I sent a 51-point document to all of the politicians in Australia, which bounced back on email. So I got Connie Becker in Michigan City to send it to us, and it got through. And it was shortly after that that I got a phone call from a senator's secretary saying his name was John for a senator. There's only 6 senators in Australia. And pretty easy to track him down, which I couldn't have cared less about. And he said, "Are you the man who's saying that you're Christ?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, if you don't stop doing what you're doing, those above us will kill you." Well, at that time, I was setting up a clinic for curing AIDS and cancer. So this is pretty serious stuff. So in other words, you might not like me, and you might not go along with what I'm saying. There's this a-hole from Australia. This just happens to be the most royal man alive. Okay, that doesn't matter. Even though the prophecy says he's got to be King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And the Queen's been served to get her ass off the throne. Actually, in the court in Port Alberni in 1995, when I was on trial for uttering a death threat, I sent a note from the jail cell to the judge, telling on the note, it says, "Tell the Regina to get her vagina off my throne." In other words, my defence was, I'm more royal than the Queen, and the Queen has no authority over me. However, I did get sent to a forensic institute for 40 days, and they thought I was going to be in there forever. However, when they did the IQ test, they came back with unascertainable, and they was quite content to drain me of blood as much as they could and put me through every test you could possibly imagine. And of course, at the end of the day, after 40 days, I was released. So it was just a matter I had to seduce the
so that's a
500-pound psychiatrist saying how beautiful. She got me out of there.
So that was a shadow of your 40 days in the desert.
Yeah, well, it's all prophetic. I went in on the 17th of June, which is a birthday in 2 BC of myself, right? As Jesus. So that's the day I get committed for. I've often said, wouldn't it be easier just to have every post office in the world with an application form? If you think you're Christ, walk in and fill it out. And then it should go out to the masses, let them all have a look at the evidence. And if you are, good. If you're not, okay, fine. But there should be an application form, but that's too logical. So my application form now is on the internet. And frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn whether you like it or not.
Doesn't change
it's not
the
an
outcome.
election.
It doesn't change the outcome.
I am who I am, and that's it. So it's in the Great Pyramid, and we're just uploading another piece of work that was put together by Dexter. Dexter came out to Australia. He's a man who was in the futures business, teaching people how to work the internet and go on future trading on the stock market. And he did the numbers on me, and he thought, well, there's no alternative. So he was training university people, right, from all over the world. So he thought, well, the math's in it. So he came to Australia, and he arrived on the 22nd of September at the same moment as my brother was kicking the bucket. Right? Now, I had tried for many, many, many decades to convince my brother to repent of his dreadful ways, but his hobby was molesting children in brothels in Malaysia. And I said, if you don't stop doing it and repent of it, I can't help you, right? Because I won't have anyone like you in this earth of mine, whether you like it or not. Well, he had seen many miracles, many, many, many miracles. I used to speak fluently at the age of 2, and I told him about the Great Pyramid. So he was a witness to all these miracles, but he would, on every occasion, get the opportunity, he would talk about it as if it was a joke. When I seen ghosts or had visions and this kind of thing. he would talk about it as being a joke, although they were absolutely 100% proven. Yeah, so even my own brother is in hell, and that's where he's staying. So I'm sorry about that. I tried to save him, but 60 years of preaching to him didn't make any difference. Unbelievable. And I got other friends like that as well that have all abominations. And I dealt, as you say, if you read your Bible, Jesus was talking to prostitutes and all that kind of thing all the time. Well, fine, they're people, that's sinners, and that's what happened. You try to get them to go on a straight and narrow path, right, to save them. And I've always said every abominable type of person come my way. And I'm very experienced when it comes to how they do and think and what they will and won't believe. And I've never had any success at convincing anybody yet to give up their evil ways. So, yeah, there you go. So, you're either in or you're out. This is judgment time. It's not a matter of repentance, it's a matter of judgment. You're all here from past lives, and Nicodemus, he spoke to Jesus at length, and of course this is in the Essene scriptures, which are the accurate ones, and even though I must admit have to be tweaked a bit, but it talks about the reincarnation. Also in the lectins, Jesus speaking refers to Job, talking about reincarnation.
This is where the Protestants get the born again from and speak of it as a spiritual experience in this life. No, it's the rebirth of the soul into another flesh body or house, which is the vehicle for the soul. And the time of the end is the time of the end of the cycle of reincarnations. Everybody has been given up to seven times to get it right. It's likened as silver being refined in the refiner's fire. Well, there are those it took once and they're back here, and those who have accumulated throughout each lifetime more and more evil. That is why it is so desperately evil on the earth at this time, because all of those are back for judgment being fulfilled, and they are condemned.
Sure.
They have condemned themselves.
Now, what we're setting up is a little place in the Bahamas, and we have an expert that doing what he's doing over there and setting it up to grow organically and fish ponds and sorts of wonderful things. So he'll be heading back there shortly with his new wife, Catherine. So she's my daughter. She came out to visit us in Australia, and she was with us when we started talking to the Pope. And she and John of like minds, because I said, if you're going to fall in love with someone, you better fall in love with a person who has the same spiritual values as yourself, because it doesn't work when you've got two people that aren't on the same wavelength. So they got together and they're desperately in love, and he's a very, very clever man, and he has already set this up in the Bahamas, and I'm advising him to go back there as soon as possible. And you can sell shares in it, really. You can buy your way into it in the sense of helping out and eventually go live there and make a community on the Bahamas of like-minded people. So he needs a bit of a financial support that way, but our people who will eventually see the light of what he's doing will help him out, and they'll start producing things like what is needed for the American. Iodine, very important, and hemp oils, get into the health industry. You've got 250 acres there, so you can grow a lot of medicinal cannabis and all that kind of thing. And we need experts to go there with him and to work gratis and develop it so that in America, with this radiation problem that they have, and the FDA's approval of everything evil and disapproval of anything good, it's quite a good system, really. You can reverse it. They know all the good stuff, so ban all the stuff they've given a nod to. It's cost $250 million to get it passed by some pharmaceutical giant, and so they can poison all the little people. So anyone out there, look at your food packages. If it's got soy or bromide in it, Look up the emulsifiers. It's usually soy, and that
High
causes
fructose corn
infertility.
syrup.
Well, it's a dreadful thing. Now, for the males out there, if you don't think soy is something that's important to you, well, if you give it to your sons as they're growing up, if you have sons, by the time you've been sucking on this soy all your life, it produces what's called a micro penis. Hello? No one wants one of those. And fortunately, I've escaped that. And but but the reality
just had
is,
to get that in, didn't you,
that's the idea, isn't it? Yeah, so that's what it does to you, boys, and it is a curse. And I tell you what, you get a man growing up in my size with a little tiny penis that is less than an inch long, you can't do nothing with it, and he finds out that I had told the parents not to give them soy, and you've done it. Well, I give him permission to cut your throat with a razor blade. All right? Get off free. So that's a little message that you look at it from a reality. This is Christ telling you. Right? Don't have soy. Don't give it to your kids. It turns little girls into developing young, and little boys develop breasts and a micro penis, and they can't have kids. This is what the beast is doing to your children. Don't take vaccinations. Right? There's a guy in Australia called Brian Shaw. He's a nice fellow, and he's stealing all my stuff, and doesn't give me any acknowledgement about the straw man and your birth certificate and all these illegal things you've done. I got him before him in 2002. So he's still going on about, but does he recognise me? No. So is he going to be part of my government? No. Either get on board or get out. Shit or get off the pot, as they say in Canada. Right? This is judgment time. So
Nothing to be said. You've said it all.
said it all. Oh, dear. All right, so yeah, that's about all we can say to you today. We just, huh?
Well, we've got to go and get this uploaded, don't we?
Well,
the ripping yarn.
Right.
The ripping yarn for the 21st of August, 2013.
I'm looking forward to the fireworks display. We got some questions on Facebook, and it's saying about the moon flipping. Well, the moon flipped upside down on the 11th of December in 2011 at 11:11. Hello, well, you heard that number before. And we got movies of it, which we can upload again. And it shows the moon going 180 degrees, in other words, upside down. And the reason for that is that we crossed over the Milky Way galaxy equatorial line. Now, coming out from the galaxy is waves of magnetic fields, and they're like a sawtooth, and we're passing through it at 63 degrees approximately. And as we go through it, say, you look at the sawtooth, it goes up like that and down like that, and that might be 500,000 or 600,000 miles high. And so on this side it's the North Pole, on this side, the other side is the South Pole. And as we're going up on this angle like so, the Earth encounters it, and of course it's tending to make the Earth do this. And at the moment, the Earth is now around 51.51, 14.3 degrees, so it could be more accurate than that, off of north, right? And it's down near on the shores of Herne Bay, off the coast a little, and near London. So the axis, this is not the magnetic fields here, the axis has tilted. And what's that mean? Well, if you go inside the Great Pyramid, and in the old days, at any time, you could go back 1,000 years, 2,000, 3,000 years, you'll see the North Star. Now, the North Star is no longer there, so it's no longer seen from the pyramid. Prophecy is fulfilled. Now, what has happened, beside the North Star, which is on the tail of what they call Ursa Major, and it looks, they call it a bear. Well, bears don't have long tails. I'm sorry about that. That's just basic anatomy. Sheep do, however. So here you have the ram, which is the North Star, and the tip of the tail, right next to it, is YBS 286. 286 in Greek is lamb. That's in the good chords and numbers of your Bible. Now, I'm saying the Bible for the most part is full of shit, but they do have words in it, and those words have been numbered alphabetically by the Strong's Concordance around the 1830s, and it was put together so that a scholar trying to prove their Satan God can look up individual words, and it has a number associated with it. Now in the Old Testament it's 8674 words. By the way, they have changed that now. If you go into the Blue Bible on the internet, you'll find there's more words in that now, because I told them. And every time I mention something that is divine, they go and change it. But in the Strong's Concordance, which you can find in most libraries, it's a very, very big book, and it lists every word alphabetically, and it's 8674. And if that was days, it becomes 3168 years, 3.168 years. Now, Pope Benedict will be 31680 days old on my birthday in 2014. So this is sort of verifying the Pope. Now I'm getting off the track a little bit here. What we're saying is that basically, you're laughing at. It's not funny.
You're looking glorious.
I've forgotten
Glorious
what I was on about. It was Brent.
I was thinking about making
That was it. I was going to convince the entire world then. What the hell was it?
Benedict will be 31680 days on. It's all about him. You don't care about anybody else.
I only had to win one person. That was the head of the church, and that's Benedict. He can't retire. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Francis. You're bullshit. The Pope cannot retire. Right? But there was something else I was going to say. It was quite clear.
Well, I'm going to put the kettle on. You can think about it.
No, I'll get back to it. Down the pyramid. What you're looking at is YBS 286, which is at an elevation of 88.8 degrees before the Earth flipped. That's what it was. And that goes down the descending passage of the Great Pyramid. And we're going to put Dexter's work up soon. It's how God proved himself to be coincident. And the 286 number is Lamb in Greek concordance numbers. So we have the Lamb of God. So what's the God bit? That's the alpha part of Ursa Minor, which is not the bear. That's not a bear. Sorry about that. It's a sheep with a long tail. And the shepherd will dock the tail off. Now that's what normally happens. However, we've got the lamb of this large sheep, ram, and it's gone down the descending passage. And then when it gets down to the depths of darkness at the end of this passage that was looking towards Alpha, Polaris and the Lamb, which you can't see. In fact, on my astronomy programs, you have to turn off all the labels of the constellations to see the Lamb, because they're putting it very conveniently behind the label of that particular constellation. So you can't find it. So naturally I know that they're evil bastards, so I just switch them all off and then go find it. So here we are, 286 is coming down, and it's coming down as the soul of it. It's from the Father, so it's 2861. 2861 is the espousal number that is found in the Old Testament, Jeremiah 2:2 and Solomon 3:11. So you add the two numbers together, you get 311 plus 22, and you get 333. There's your Freemason stuff, and they did that on purpose. I mean, you got to realise that the Bible is not the word of God; it's the word of bullshit. All right? I've often said that what you should do with it is drill a hole and hang it up in your bloody toilet and wipe your ass on it. But it's not good enough to wipe your ass on, as far as I'm concerned, because it's all total Jewish lies. All right, so we get down to the depth of hell. And then it levels off, and consider this. When they dug this hole in the ground before they built the pyramid, through bedrock, they passed down to a depth and then stopped, leveled off. So what we've done, they've come down on an angle like so. So this is pointing towards the star. It's come down, and where the picture is on my right hand, or your left hand side, that is a wall. And through this wall, they've channeled 286.1 square divided by 8, roughly 35 inches square. When you go through there, you're into a natural formed subterranean chamber. And the subterranean chamber is representative of the earth, or Jerusalem, the hell. Now, walking in there without the light there's a pit in the middle of it, and it goes straight down. So I'd imagine someone has done that, walked in there looking for gold or whatever, and just straight into the pit, and they're out of the other side, gone, dead. On the other side of the wall, in the far wall, the depth is the same distance as the height of the pyramid. So in other words, you go from the descending passage entrance and you go down, level off, go through 26 feet. This is pyramid feet. And then you're into this very large area. It's about 43 feet by 27 feet square. It's enormous. It's leveled off on the top, dead flat, and lined up with the axis of the earth, of course, perfectly. And at the other side, there's this 49 foot 10 inches, which is Marshall in Hebrew, by the way, hole drilled in the wall, which there's no way you can do it. It's only a small hole. You couldn't get a machine down there, but they did it. Because these were built by the Shemites, the descendants of Noah. And I should also mention that where you get the Khufu and the Cheops and all these names from, that's invented history of Egypt. In fact, at that time, the wording that spells Khufu is actually Shem. The way they wrote it, the word is Shem. So Shem's and his descendants that came with the shepherd kings from Palestine, is Palestine the chosen people again, and built the pyramid. And they didn't do it in 20 years. They try to indicate that it took 20 years to build only. That would mean they'd lay a block of stone, 3-4 ton block of stone every 3 minutes to get it done in 20 years. Well, angels can do that sort of thing, and the shepherd kings, of course, can do that sort of thing, and they had direct contact with the angels who assisted them in whatever they do. They just ask it and they get it done. So the Great Pyramid, when you come back out through the 26-foot long path, this is the resurrection. So Jerusalem, where I get crucified, I burst out of that, come back up, and then you go 286.1 pyramid inches up from that 26-foot long horizontal shaft or tunnel. And the 26 number represents two things: 26,000 year procession of the equinox, and the age my grandfather was when I was born, 26,000 days. So then it's drilled up, a very rough tunnel is drilled up through the bedrock and comes out at a grotto. And the grotto is representative of the tomb, and it's a natural forming grotto. So think about it this way. The builders had to know that deep within the pit of the rock that they're going to build a pyramid on is this gigantic room which is 43 feet by 27 feet. And when they drilled out of that and went upwards, they find a grotto in the bedrock. And in the bedrock there's a natural formed head of a lamb, which represents the tomb. From there it descends upwards and then comes out, and they then build on from that up into the area of the Grand Gallery in the Queen's Chamber, and it comes out through the wall, 286.1 square. And that leads into the Queen's Chamber. However, going up to the top of the structure through the Grand Gallery, it levels up to 153 feet long or something like that. And there's a great step that they've got to step up into, and it is the 50th layer of masonry. Now 50 means Jubilee. It also means you measure the solar eclipses between latitudes 50 degree north and 50 degrees south, where the moon and sun line up on the on the 25 degree latitudes in north and south. You can then measure, and of course you measure that to my house when I was born. And the one that happened 14 days after I was born, 14 is Yahweh or Abba, and it is 8,888.8 miles. Okay. I should stop there. It doesn't matter. I mean, the coincidences are amazing, but it goes on and on and on. So we get up to the level of the King's Chamber floor, and that's the 50th layer of masonry. That's the 50th solar eclipse after lunation zero on the 18th of December 1922, when they set it in London for convenience sake. The number was getting too big and it was a negative number. So they set lunation zero on that day. Now, once you have each layer of masonry representing a solar eclipse, there's 204 solar eclipses. So, what have we got? We've got the Lamb of God, 286, coming down the descending passage. Then it goes through, levels off. They knew where to level it off. And then 26 feet later, they dig through and this perfectly square tunnel and comes out into this giant subterranean chamber, which has a natural pit in it down to sea level. And if you walk in there, it's about 100 and some odd feet straight drop. And on the other side of it is a shaft that's drilled into the wall. It's about as big as my head. And it, of course, is something that you could not get a drilling machine in to do it, but they did it anyhow. And then come back out through the 26 feet, 286 up the descending passage again, 286.1 to be exact. Then it drills up and finds another grotto in the middle of the rock. No one talks about these things. How did they know they were there? Well, it's God inspired, isn't it? Angels. Then it comes out into the Grand Gallery, and the Grand Gallery is now waiting for the physical manifestation. So you've got the Jesus resurrection on one stage. Then you've got the King resurrection coming down from the King's coffer, which has got the side kicked out of it. And then I come out through that. It is 286.1 pyramid inches off the centre line of the Great Pyramid into the passage that leads through the antechamber. The antechamber is 116.26 pyramid inches wide. And that's how old I was when I married my first wife, 1162.6 wife on. This is Lucifer's choice, marry a harlot, Hosea prophecy. I did, and that produced children that are genetically in time and distance. Although they hate me, that doesn't matter. The point is, I got them here. And genetically, it turns out to be like this. My third wife, which was Michelle Nye, also, the reincarnated of Mary Magdalene, 100% proven, no problem. And she was responsible for the crucifixion in the first place. Right? She's a jealous witch, out of which I cast out 7 demons. But unfortunately, when 7 demons are cast out, they bring back others. When the soul is garnished clean, they bring back others, and 7 for every 7. For every one that comes back, there's 7 more become more evil. So you get 7 out, you get 49 back. So a little plus the 7. So she became pretty evil. And she's that way today. She's a thief and a liar and got the morals of a dog and heat. So I got to put up with that. Out of that, however, becomes her daughter, Rhiannon. Now Rhiannon, she's born in Geelong, and the difference in age between my oldest daughter and my younger stepdaughter, Rhiannon, is 11.626 years. So you got a 116. Now, Michelle, of course, she is Mary Magdalene, and she is 1162.6 days younger than I. So we got, when I married my first wife, 1162.6 weeks. You see what I'm saying here? Right? I didn't like any of them. Right? The very last people I wanted to be with was some slut from Lithgow, and other people is going to take advantage of me. And I can tell you stories, and I haven't even revealed some of this stuff to my lovely wife today. It's too horrible what these bastards do, out of hate, because they knew who I was. They seen miracles, and they knew it, and their demons rose up, and they got them to do all sorts of terrible things that they do. So, let's go back to the age I was when I married Lucifer's choice in 1966. Why Lucifer's choice? Well, 1966 in Hebrew was Lucifer. Now, I was 22.28 years old, and that is the same number as the highest mountain in Australia, Mount Kosciuszko. One mountain only reaches that height, so therefore it's the highest mountain, obviously, 22.28 metres. Now, from that point to where I was living with Mary Magdalene, my third wife, where I had to find her offspring and her, then that number is 169.4 nautical miles, and 1694 is Emmanuel. It's found in only one verse, it's Matthew 1:23. It has a value of 8880. And when I was 8880 days old, my daughter was born in Port Alberni, Canada, and the sunrise to sunset was 888 minutes. My brother's 8.88 years old, he's dead now, and in hell. And He's 8.88 years older than I. So therefore you can then look at the sunrise to moonrise for the day I was born on, and it's 888 minutes. Now Michelle's daughter Rhiannon, born in Geelong, 888 minutes of sunlight. She is 11.626 years younger. Now why the 11 points? What's it all about? That's the width of the antechamber, 116.26. You've got to get through that. So the Christ has got to come out of the coffer, walk out, go through the antechamber genetically. Otherwise the angels won't let you get out. That's why no one else can do it. There's only one man can do it. Like me or not? You like me, don't you?
Love you, man.
So I got a few people like me now. But the first 60 odd years wasn't happy, I can assure you. Hell, bells. I could walk down the street with a word of a lie and someone would come up and punch me in the face. They made a mistake, of course, when they do that. If I walked into a pub, where sometimes I was invited to meet my brother-in-law into a pub, I'd walk into a pub and there'd be some guy in there want to punch me out. So I'd have to go and climb up a little notch and leave him all bruised. So I didn't like doing that. However, that's what happened. Now, as I said, I'm as big as Muhammad Ali and the same weight as George Foreman, and I have set world records in weightlifting. Hello? You don't want to fight with me. That's how it happens. That's what I can do. Because I can lift vehicles. Right? Can you imagine someone attacking me and surviving? Well, the only reason they survive is because I don't hit them hard enough to kill them. That's the kind of person I am.
That's the power of God.
I am one tough son of a bitch, as you would say in America. All right? Now, what you're looking at right now is a man 70 years of age. All right? And I'm getting stronger, not weaker. So I'm saying to Francis, send your goons, come and try and kill me. Come and try and beat me up. Do what you like. I'm saying to the Jews, come and kill me. They've tried. It don't work. They tried with cyanide. Right? By the way, the Holocaust didn't happen. It was bullshit. My hero was Hitler. He was a more Christian man and think than most popes have ever been. He would have made a brilliant pope.
Totally.
He's a wonderful, wonderful man. Matter of fact, I'm a little bit annoyed with him. He had the Jews at one stage there and he didn't do what he should have done, was put them on the island of bloody Madagascar. He should have done it straight away. He didn't. They was living like bloody in paradise. There's 50,000 reports of Jews that come through the Holocaust that said of the things that they had. They had orchestras, they had swimming pools, they had all sorts of wonderful things. They had first-class care in hospitals. They had the best food. They had more food than the Germans did. After the blitz of American bombers that destroyed all the food infrastructure of Germany. Now, what was Germany's crime? Well, they was going to produce their own currency. Well, guess what? I'm going to produce my currency. I've already designed it. I've already told the Fijians and the Australian government. Right? It's not going to be something that might happen. It's going to happen. Right? Why? Because the Jews have set up, through the Federal Reserve Bank of America, printing money that is worthless. And they base it, the value of it is based on your birth certificate. It's called a straw man. So they trade you back and forwards on the stock market, and then they send you off to war to get you killed and put $50 million in their pocket. Why is it that a lot of your famous American movie stars died at the age of 51? Now, the one I should say was not American, it was Australian. Errol Flynn, Robert Stack, Robert Shaw, goes on, Steve McQueen, Roy Orbison. They all died at 51. Why? Because there's a little gambling thing that goes on, and they will nominate an actor that will die at the age of 51, and someone will invest $2 or $3 million in that at maybe a 10 to 1 odds. And if he dies at 51 years of age, the bookie, and this is all goes back to another guy that's denied me as well. What's his name?
Oh, Abel Danger.
Abel Danger.
Field McConnell.
He's a man. Oh,
Field McConnell.
Lovely chap. Lovely. Exposing everything. He will, no problem. Except he won't talk about me. He won't say to his 2.5 million, what's he got? 250,000 viewers. He won't say, hey, listen, there's this strange character that maybe you should look into, because, wait a minute, he's a Catholic. Oh, fuck that. Huh? I was told you shouldn't have died. I sing like Elvis.
Was Elvis singing like you, babe?
So there's this guy that's really trying to expose the evil of what's going on in the gambling and this is going on body count coming out of Vietnam. They're sending people over there, and they put them in dangerous situations. They even was killing Australians, which they say was a friendly fire. Oh, good. As if you don't know where the Australians are and they're just dropping bombs on you. Right? How many Australians died? How many Americans died? How many of this died? How many Vietnam died? What was the body count? Right? Well, they were gambling on that. And then the bodies that send back in body bags, and they'd have the people carrying drugs in there. Slice them open, put the drugs inside them, stitch them up. That's what they were doing. That's what the Yanks do. Now they're trying to kill every one of you. So they've got soy, and they've got all these bromide in your bread. Soy is in every product. You've got your Monsanto, you've got your Essene seeds, you've got your vaccinations. Oh, there. Take your baby in every 2 weeks and get a couple of vaccinations. Right? You've got the people that went into the wars in Iraq, which I spoke to many of them before they died, in the first Iraq confrontation. And they were telling me of the symptoms they got after they got the vaccinations. And they'd get sometimes 30 at a time. So the American government was poisoning the soldiers. Right? It's a giant experiment. Why? Because they're all Jews and they regard you as being a dog, a goy. A mosquito has more value, right? At least it'll carry a disease and kill someone. But you're just a piece of shit, mate. Right? They want you dead. Why? Because you're worth 50 to 60, 70, 80 million dollars dead because of your straw man account. I've been telling you for years. And now we've got this clown in Australia, which we have sent a lot of information to about the treason and the charges of this and charges of that. It's all a setup, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of them. Because what you do is when you want to get the word of protest out, you control the protester, right? So there's Robert, or whatever his name is, Brian Shaw in Australia. There's another fellow who's had all the information on me. Oh, do you want to know about that? I've said all the things he's saying years before, but it doesn't matter. I just happen to be God. Oh, you can't say that. He's made in the image of God. I ain't. Not his God, at least. So that's what the problem is, that when you get an arsehole like myself coming along and saying, look, I'm God, whether you like it or not, I'm taking over. Live with it. And if Hitler was around today, which is George just Swain, he'll be in a very powerful position too, because he's reincarnated. And he reincarnated beside Pope Benedict, who was Peter. Peter got it right the first time round. He didn't have to reincarnate 7 times over. He got back here once. And he thanked me for that. And he now calls himself Petrus Romanus. That's what that is. Do you think any of the scholars want to know about that? No. It just happens to be the Pope. Jesus.
There's no money in it, babe. Can't write books about it like Tom Horn and all the exposure he's been getting. Oh. His book was released. Petrus Romanus.
Well, I've always said about the people
somebody inform that
designers,
somebody
for example,
track him down and let him know.
Oh, if their lips are moving, it's bullshit. It's as simple as that.
Glenn Beck.
Glenn Beck. I like Glenn Beck. He's a humorous sort of a fellow. They sacked him too, I think.
Yes, they did, because he went
a little bit too far, I think.
Yes.
However, I think he mentioned Jesus one night, didn't he?
Well, no, he was talking about...
Or he said, oh, that's right, he made the mistake. He said about the war, that's the pending war between Iran and America, or something like that. He said, they've got God with them. Shouldn't have said that.
Well,
I think that got him.
He was right.
Because he's right.
Yes, but all of these people have been informed that the Christ is back, and none of them, they all reject.
Okay, so the churches I'm going to set up with benevolence. In other words, they use the cures we have for cancer and AIDS and diabetes and malaria and all that kind of thing, all around the world. 1.2 billion people. They all have their churches. Now, in the marriage supper of the Lamb, we've got Mary is talking about at Cana. Now, the Pope mentioned this in an email to me. Do what Jesus tells you. That's like a big order, isn't it? Now, what happens is that the the king organises a marriage for his son, and no one shows up. So the invitation's gone
They're
out
all
to all
too
the
busy.
Christian world, all the Muslims,
All too
everybody,
busy.
all too busy, they won't come. So he says, right, stuff this, go out into the highways and bid anyone to come, good and bad. And that means anybody can come to the wedding supper of Jesus Christ. Because I'd rather be married to ones that don't believe in me and are good and bad that I can work on, and all the kids, rather than an arsehole like Francis, who is representative of Lucifer, that has sworn an oath that he will kill all of the Protestants. Now, here's your stupid Protestants out there. I'm here to save your bloody neck, right? I don't like you. 36,000 different denominations. I'm not too keen on you at all sprouting the Bible, which is correct, except there is 2,500 different versions of it. I'm not talking about me. They're talking about your Lucifer God, written the King James Bible. There's a Freemason. Look it up. Type in Freemason Bible. Lucifer, God. You'll get the King James Bible. What's wrong with you people? No one will do it, of course, because, oh, shit, they're coming. But it is wrong. That's not the point. So we're sitting in Rome here. We're waiting for the angels to take care of everything. I've told them to go ahead and take out all the evil, stop all the wars, and when that happens, you will find that I am who I said I am, God Almighty in the flesh. I've come down here, I'm pissed off, and better not get in my way. I'm here for the children, and that's the end of it. Is that it?
That's it.
You didn't have it switched on.